Welcome back, guys. On this next video, and we're going to be reacting, or not reacting, but speaking on this article titled Trump Tariffs Will Hit Over $200 billion in U.S., Canada, Mexico Cross-Border Rail Trade. Some key points of this article are the U.S. freight rail industry handled an estimated $203.1 billion in cross-border trade between the U.S., Mexico, and Canada in 2024, with jobs and economies in states including Texas, Illinois, and California acutely exposed to trade impacts. Another key point is key imports and exports across all three North American nations cross the borders by railroad, from auto parts to oil, metals, lumber, agricultural products, and chemicals. Vast amounts of rail cargo come from other countries around the world as well, up to 70%. So, I mean, we've seen the news that Trump, went ahead and continued with the tariffs, and it's going to be a big impact. I mean, $203.1 billion. I think that's 2.5 times more than what we were previously collecting in tariffs. Isn't that correct? I think we were collecting $80 billion annually. So now this is pushing it to $203 billion.
Yeah, and the thing is the reason why, because now it'll be tariffs starting March 4th. It'll be tariffs on Canada, Mexico, and then, of course, he just doubled down on China and added another 10% there. But people get the whole tariff thing misconstrued. All right, tariff, when Donald Trump is talking about tariffs and he's putting it on China, he's putting it on Mexico, he's putting it on Canada. The truth is, he's putting it on the buyers of the goods that sell them to you, the U.S. consumer. So the U.S. companies that import the stuff, they're paying the tariffs. And then it's up to them to decide if they're going to eat the cost or they're going to pass it to the consumer. Like we talked about in previous videos, I think it'll be a mixture between the two. I mean, I don't think they're going to put the whole 25% tariff on the U.S. customer price. And so it'll be some happy medium there. Maybe they pass along 15%, they eat 10% or whatever. But that's what goes on. So that's the part that's misconstrued. You hear on the right, they just say, oh no, they just taxing China, they just taxing Mexico, they just taxing Canada. But the truth is no, they're taxing you or putting tariffs on the U.S. importer that's importing these goods. So what does that mean? What it means is that these U.S. companies that's importing these goods will import less goods. That's what it means. It'll import less goods. It'll probably import, if we just using simple math, they probably import 25% less. And then again, figuring out how they will deal with the pricing mechanism. On the other side, on the left, they are saying the true thing, that it will cost Americans more. That's still up for debate on how the manufacturer of the big box stores will do that cost. But the other part of it is the left only want to point at it's going to cost the American consumers more, but they don't want to talk about the reasons behind it. The reasons behind it is for every Chinese company, every company in Mexico, company in Canada, they put tariffs on their importers of our goods. And the reason why they put these tariffs on their importers of our goods is because they want their customers to buy more locally. If the imported goods cost more, then some people will have to have the budget conscious mind of, hey, I will buy what's created in Canada because it's cheaper, or I will buy what's created in Mexico because it's cheaper, or I'll buy what's created in China because it's cheaper. That's what Trump is trying to do, is create the inverse. Is, of course, Chinese steel is cheaper because Chinese steel, they have too much of it, they can't use it, so they're just trying to offload it onto other countries. So yeah, it'll come into the United States cheaper, but what does that do? That cannibalizes the U.S. steel companies that produce steel in the United States. People want it both ways. They want cheap goods, but they also want pay raises. They also want 401ks. They also want to unionize and do all these other things, which costs more money. That's why stuff in the United States costs more money. So that's the big misnomer, I think, on both sides. So it's really like bringing a happy medium to it. And Trump said it in one of his many damn press conferences. He said, I'm just going to retaliate and have a retaliatory tariff. If you put tariffs on mine, I'm putting tariffs on yours. So yeah, will it suck for the U.S. consumer? Yeah, probably, because most U.S. companies are not going to eat that 25% or that 20% that they put on China. They're not going to eat all that cost. They're going to pass to the consumer. But, and I know I'm going long-winded here, but the thing is, you got to understand supply and demand also. So well, I'll just use Walmart. I'm not picking on Walmart, just using them as a quick example. For like Walmart. So if the price of, let's just say cereal, for instance, let's just say they import cereal from somewhere. And then it gets to $10 a box of cereal, then the customers don't buy it off the shelf, then Walmart only got two options. It's either they discontinue selling that said cereal, or they lower the price and have to eat some of the costs. So at some price point, Americans will just stop buying it. They will find an alternative. They'll go back to Alex, remember when we was young, we had the big bags of cereal, and that we ain't use the, name brand box cereal back in the day, or you probably, yes. Yeah. So that's what happened in the supply and demand scenario. That's why I don't think the big importers will pass all the price off to the customers, because they know at one point, at some price point, the customer is just going to say no. I mean, let's just look at the egg crisis right now that's going on with, all of the hens that had to be put down, and then now it's a shortage of eggs. I mean, of course, there's alternative, you go find some farm or something and you can get eggs at a cheaper price. But for the majority of people, they don't have that luxury. So they have to make a conscious budget-friendly decision in their house. Are we still going to keep buying eggs at 3-4 times the price? Last time I went, I believe it was like $6.50, $7 a dozen. And that was at Aldi's. So I'm scared to see what it's at the other stores. I went to the other stores. They were just sold out. But now you just got to make the decision. We still going to eat eggs or not? We got to go just find an alternative. We got to go find something else to do. And that's the decisions that people are going to have to make. And these big producers or big stores, they know it's the price point the customer's just not going to do. So that's really how it turns out. And that's how the whole tariff thing actually works. I'm not saying it's good for one side, bad for other side, but you as Americans that work in America, you're losing your jobs to other companies outside of America because they can produce the goods lower that Americans are buying. So if the companies in America can't compete with outside companies because they can produce at a way lower level, but of course you want the 401ks, you want the healthcare benefits, you want all this stuff and the pay raises, then you got to pick your poison. If you want all this stuff, then you got to pay higher prices. If you want to keep your job, you got to pay higher prices. But if you're okay losing your job so you can get cheaper prices, then no tariff. So that's the big debate that people just don't understand. There's two sides of the coin, but of course, each side of the aisle, no matter if it's Fox News or if it's CNN, they only want to present one side of it and just make it look like it's all good or it's all bad. But the truth of it is, it's going to be pain on both sides. It's going to be pain for the consumer. It's going to be pain for the big box stores. It's going to be pain all around. But fair is fair. Alex, if I borrow $100 from you, and then you charge me 10% interest on that $100, but then when you got to borrow from me, oh no, you can't charge me interest. Make that make sense? And that's really where we at.
Yeah, and it looks like the tariff amount is evenly split between the two nations I was looking at. Looks like Canada is paying roughly like 104 billion and Mexico 98 billion. So yeah, I mean, like I said, like this is just between these two countries, this already doubles, what we're already collecting annually in tariffs. And to your points, I mean, there's nothing wrong with what you said. I mean, it's a matter of the U.S. has all these natural resources that we can make in-house or produce in-house to utilize in our economy. We don't have to depend on other countries. I've heard a lot of different arguments on, we're going to have to pay higher prices and, we need these items coming in from other countries. But in reality, like the U.S. has a lot of things. The U.S. has its own oil, it has its own lumber, it has its own minerals and everything. So for these commodities and stuff to be imported, and understandingly, they're at a cheaper price. But like you said, it's pick your own poison. And could there be more economic growth? Do you think that we would see any difference in the economy and growth maybe for having more in-house production and jobs and such?
Yeah. Yeah, I see that it'll be more. But in the short term, no, it's gonna be pain. It's gonna be pain.
Right.
Because the thing is, of course, everybody that live in America know the jobs don't uh increase pay to meet up with inflation. Just inflation. Now you add on the tariffs and all that. Yeah, would it produce more jobs in the United States? Because a lot of these countries that export to the U.S., they will start building, so they can avoid the tariffs. They will start building manufacturing in the United States. We've seen that in Trump's first administration. Oh, more of the, the automotive companies, they started building more in the United States and what have you. Now you see chip manufacturers coming to the Arizonas, the Texas of the world to put more chips, because the United States imported like 90% of their chips from outsourced from out of the country, and then now these companies are moving into the United States, so that create more jobs for Americans themselves. And that's what I'm saying. You got to pick your poison. It's either we're going to let all of these other countries import their stuff from us, and then we as Americans are going to lose jobs, or we got to sit there and bite the bullet and pay a higher cost, but we have jobs to maintain and take care of our family. You got to pick which one is more important to you. I know, the arguments out there of what about people on fixed income and stuff and things like that. Yeah. Yes, I understand that. But just like in a family budget, if you sitting there underwater and you got to get your income higher or your expenses lower, somebody's going to have to take sacrifice. Maybe the kids can't go out there and play all the sports activities in the summer and things like that. The budget has to be cut somewhere. So it's just pick your poison on where you're going to have to cut to get your head back above water. But the more we outsource and the more we go into globalization and the more we go into, hey, we just going to import everything, it's going to be less jobs for people to spend money on those things. And the only thing we got to do is look at the last 40 years. The income inequality in America has been skewed more to the people who have money, still have money, and the people who have middle class and lower middle class and poor. That group of people just is becoming bigger because the amount of jobs that's out there is just not cutting the cake on. The cost is going up. Even these companies that's importing, they still have inflation. They're raising the cost on their stuff, but American companies still got to raise the cost because they got to fight unions. They got to fight healthcare costs. They got to fight 401k costs. They got to fight all the other costs. Then they got to fight the pay rate. A lot of these companies outside the United States, they're not giving their employees pay raises and 401ks and healthcare and all that other stuff. So which one is more important to you? Do you want the job, or do you want to be able to, pay 50 cents for a loaf of bread? With no job, you ain't gonna be able to pay for the bread. So which one is more important? And that's the thing that people, and I blame the media on both sides because they don't hold the argument just like that. They don't explain both sides. They only want to explain the side that make you mad at the other side. And that's the part that is the part that put America in disarray, put a lot of countries in disarray, because you have different sides of the media. How about report the news as it is and leave it up to the people to have an informed decision? But no, the media want to tell you what to do, how to think, how to feel about every damn thing that's going on. And coincidentally, magically, it's always, if you're looking at one channel, it's, oh, hate the other side for doing this. You're looking at the other channel, oh, hate the side for doing this. No matter what it is, if it's good or whatever, it's always, oh no, it's always bad. That's terrible. That's terrible. That's why you got families at each other's throat now. And I sit there, and of course, people call me all the time about stuff that's going on in politics. And then they tell me from just their lineal side of whatever side of the aisle that they watch the news from. And then I'd be like, all right, now here's the whole story. Now tell me what it is. Oh, I ain't even heard that part, because you choose to only listen to one side of the argument. So now here's the whole story. Now you tell me what makes sense. And that's what I believe where American media and world media fails, because they all have an agenda. And at the end of the day, it's only Americans and the people in each country fighting amongst each other while the big names are still making the money because they inflaming the argument.
Yep. With that said, guys, if you have any comments or questions, let us know down below. We're going to leave the article down below for you guys to read. Don't forget to send us more content, like this video, share, subscribe. We'll see you guys on the next one.